my name's Hesper Hyman, and this is my AEP858 introduction video. A little bit about me. I live on a ranch in the northeast corner of New Mexico, where my husband is the fourth generation rancher, just trying to keep the ag life alive. I have two older children that have graduated high school now. My oldest works for Caterpillar as a technician, and my youngest is going to be finishing his first year of college at Frank Phillips in Borger, Texas. I've worked for 12 years at Texline ISD, where I am currently teaching 6th and 7th math and science. I also teach a high school home economics class, math finance class, and as well as some remediation courses. Over these last 12 years, I've taught 4th and 5th math and science. I've taught accounting, technology, or BCIS, yearbook. I've also been an advisor for numerous organizations and classes, as well as served on many different committees. Some of the assessments that we use here to drive instruction at Texline ISD, of course, you can't talk about Texas without talking about the STAR test. The state assessment does drive a lot of our data as far as, did our students master the TEKS that they needed to master at the grade level they were in to be able to perform as they needed to. Now, not to say that we are teaching to the test. But you can't not look at that STAR data, because that is what the state of Texas looks at for your accreditation. We use DMAC. DMAC is a great program here in Texas. DMAC will take all the information for every student that has ever taken a STAR test. They will group them according to schools. They will also group it for an individual student. So if I have a student that's taken their STAR test from 3rd grade through 8th grade, I can go back and I can look at all of their data, and I can say, okay, hey, look, in 4th grade, they were low in this TEK, and look how it continued on 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, through 8th grade. So it helps us to target a lot of individual information, as well if we have a new student that moves in, if they've taken a STAR test anywhere in the state of Texas, we can find them in the system and pull them in. We also use NWEA 3 times a year to benchmark our students just to see where they're at and where they're gaining or if they're losing. And we use that information to decide, is more remediation needed, or, what are we looking at with these students as far as if they're on level or not. The data that I use for my individual here in class, I use a website called Lead Forward, and Lead Forward is a great program, great group here in Texas that I use a lot at the beginning of the year when I'm looking at aligning and making sure that my TEKS and the things that I'm doing are aligning with the upper grades and my lower grades. Of course, I look at my STAR data at the end of the year once the testing is done and we receive the scores. And it kind of gives me a lot of information as to, what did maybe I not cover well enough. Maybe I thought that they understand lateral surfaces. And then I find out on the test, oh, nobody knew what I was talking about. So I definitely make mark of that at the end of the year, the areas that maybe I need to focus on next year with that set of group of students, or let the next teacher know, hey, they didn't score well in this area. And so we need to definitely be looking at that. I'll also look at it again at the beginning of the year to make sure that, some of my weaknesses then I try to improve on. And then when I have a student moving from 6th to 7th grade, if I realize, hey, we didn't get some information in 6th grade, when we get to it in 7th grade, we need to go back and review that 6th grade TEK to then be able to meet and master the 7th grade TEK. With that, DMAC comes in very handily, because I can break my classes down by each question on the STAR test based on their percentage of passing on it. NWA we use, as I said, as a benchmark that then leads into a program that we call Edgenuity. And what Edgenuity does is it's a great way for students to fill gaps. So if I have a student that is missing TEK 7.2D and they're getting ready for the STAR test, I might design a special program or a special lesson for them to just focus on that TEK, or we can put in a strand of TEKs for them to work on. So it's really great. Some of the weaknesses that I find in myself when using data for instruction is not challenging my students that are either performing at or above level as much as I should. I need to be focusing on those students as well as my students that aren't performing on level. Sometimes data can become overwhelming because we have so many sources of data coming in. But then you also have to look at that data and say, okay, was that student focused that day? Did they, were they sick? Were they just sitting there clicking on the computer? What was going on? So I think you definitely have to go with your gut instinct. So some of the improvements, definitely, I think with data-driven instruction, even you need to use your teachers as your resources. I need to know the students that are coming up to me, these are the things that they didn't do well. These are the things that they mastered. I don't want to spend all my time on something that they've already mastered. So we want to make sure that, we're communicating with all of our teacher resources. I want to also make sure that each student is getting the individualized needs met. Just because Susie has mastered three-dimensional shapes, Joey might not. But it doesn't mean that I can stop class and go and reteach Joey everything about three-dimensional shapes. So through the different data and the different programs available to us, hopefully we can meet those individual needs. And I also think we need to use our community resources here at TextLine a little bit more. Sometimes we have a tendency to just keep it all in the school and not use our community as much. On our elementary side right now, they have what they call tornado time, and we have people from the community that come in. They work individually with some of the different students, some of the high students, some of the low students. I'd like to see that program maybe continue over into the junior high and high school side, and just kind of get a better feel of these are the things they need in the real world. How are they going to use that algebra in the real world? So I'm hoping that maybe some of those community resources will help them out. Well, I hope you enjoyed my video, and I look forward to the class. Thank you so much.